Welcome back to another Moulder Monday. If you ask any person, they'll tell you their goal in life is to be happy. Happy with their career, their family, their relationship, happy with their life. I'm here to tell you that the pursuit of happiness is the biggest lie that you've ever been fed to as a human being. This episode is going to get pretty interesting. The past 4 episodes were discussing the mental foundation to build and building a purpose for yourself. Today, we are going to be talking about some of the illusions in life that may hinder you from reaching your purpose. Now, let me make this clear before it gets twisted. Happiness can be beautiful. The birth of a child, the finishing touch on a long project, the first kiss when you get married. These and many more are beautiful moments in human existence. That's not what I'm trying to take away from. Happiness wasn't supposed to be the goal. Happiness is a moment, a reward along the way, but it was never supposed to be the destination because it doesn't end at the birth of a child. You have a lifetime of being a parent, the first kiss at your wedding. You have a lifetime of being married. See, these moments of happiness are joyful, but they're moments. They're not the final product. You shouldn't just want a kid to feel the emotion of seeing your child born. You should understand the strenuous journey that entails following that. The problem is people confuse happiness with pleasure. They confuse happiness with comfort. They confuse happiness with fulfillment. Pleasure is eating junk food, taking drugs, winning a bet, getting a like as pleasure. Comfort is having no pressure on you, no pain, no resistance, no reason to move. Happiness is an emotion that comes and goes. But fulfillment is different. Fulfillment is deeper. Fulfillment can exist when you're tired. Fulfillment can exist when you're struggling. Happiness cannot. That is why a man can feel exhausted and still feel fulfilled. That is why a mother can lose sleep raising a child and still say it gave her life meaning. That is why an entrepreneur can go through years of stress, rejection, uncertainty, and still believe he is where he's supposed to be. That is fulfillment. Fulfillment does not require constant happiness. Fulfillment requires meaning. Happiness alone is a horrible goal. Happiness is what will contribute to the downfall of this planet. Fulfillment does not require constant happiness. Fulfillment requires meaning. Happiness alone is a horrible goal. Happiness is what will contribute to the downfall of this planet. Here's what I tell everyone who chooses happiness as their goal in life. I tell them, your life is finite. You will die. It is a guarantee. That is the only guarantee in our entire lives, that we will die. You cannot avoid it. Sorry. And once you realize that fact, you might have only tomorrow to live, or maybe another couple decades. So if the goal is happiness, wouldn't you want to be happy for the rest of your life? Wouldn't you want to be happy for every single second leading up until your death? Yes. Okay, so here's this. Take some Molly, which is an MDMA psychedelic, and it causes an insane surge of neurotransmitters to fire in your brain. So your dopamine will be through the roof, and you'll be at peak happiness, and then kill yourself. Because then you live the rest of your life happy. You don't have to have any more days of struggle, any more pain. You live the rest of your entire life happy, at peak happiness. What more can you ask for? And it sounds morbid, but it actually makes sense if happiness is the true goal. If happiness every day is the goal, why not be peak happy for the remaining couple hours and then die? You're going to die anyways. But think of how dumb that sounds. That sounds stupid, dumb. Because the whole world just getting high and killing themselves, that sounds pretty stupid. If happiness was truly the highest goal, the most logical life would be to live the shortest life with the most intense pleasure. Find the strongest artificial high as possible, hit that high emotional state, and end the story right there. So clearly, happiness shouldn't be the goal. Moulder, that sounds insanely extreme. No, it's really not. Dopamine, serotonin, that's happiness. That's going on in your brain. That's an actual thing. There's layers to it. You know, a high five with somebody compared to an insanely high psychedelic drug, it releases different levels of dopamine, which is happiness. So it actually makes logical sense that there are layers to happiness and that there are higher highs. That is why I emphasize the power of choice. There doesn't even need to be a chase, or there can be. I mean, I suggest chasing purpose because purpose is fulfilling. Purpose doesn't need happiness every single second. Purpose is different. The world sells happiness because happiness is easy to control. Buy this and you'll be happy. Drink this and you'll be happy. Look like this and you'll be happy. Get rich and you'll be happy. The system doesn't actually want you to be fulfilled because a fulfilled person is hard to sell to. An empty person will buy anything. You have to understand that happiness is an emotion. It is a temporary feeling that goes away. And the happier you are, the more dull your life becomes. What? That is because of leveling. You cannot experience highs without lows. The only reason climbing a mountain is satisfying is because there's a bottom ground and a high ground. If there was only bottom ground and no high ground, it would literally be flat. And have you ever jumped for joy when you've walked on a flat surface? No. Why do you think humans get addicted to anything? Because you want higher highs. You win one bet, you want more. You start smoking and the highs become normal. Now you want a stronger dosage. That's why weed is known as the gateway drug, because it's the beginning of an infinite chase of highs. Without lows, there's no such thing as a high. Okay, so circling back to happiness, when neurotransmitters fire in your brain, it releases dopamine, serotonin, endorphins. You feel good. But the more often that happens, it becomes more normal. The more times you're happy, that becomes your normal state. Okay, if you were to take a cold shower every single day, and then one time a year you take a hot shower, that hot shower is going to feel insane. It's going to feel insanely good. Now, if you were to take a hot shower every single day, the hot shower becomes the normal, and it's just another shower, right? You don't feel that feeling that you felt when you took cold showers every day and took that one hot shower. You know, if you start taking the hot showers every day, it becomes normal. And hot showers, they feel pretty good. I love taking a nice hot shower. What more do I need from that? Nothing. But innovation comes from struggle. When it was dark, we needed light. We discovered fire. Through the despair, we found answers. When you struggle in life, that's when you discover who you are. That's when you grow. But when you have it all, you're complacent. And our society is heading down that path. A comfortable society becomes a passive society. We stop creating. We stop building. We stop questioning things. We stop fighting. And then we continue to consume and relax. That is dangerous. That is how the top of society will continue to detach from the bottom of society, and the top will no longer have a need for the bottom of society. You ever hear of the Wolf of Wall Street? If you haven't seen that movie, that is your homework tonight. Watch it immediately. It's based on a true story. It follows the rise of Jordan Belfort. He goes from selling penny stocks to becoming one of the most notable names on Wall Street. He gets the money, he gets the mansion, the yacht, he gets the woman, he gets everything that society tells you that will make you happy. And then what happens? He doesn't become fulfilled. He becomes more empty. Because once you have everything, but no higher purpose attached to it, the only thing left is stimulation. More drugs, more sex, more dopamine, and then that all turns into more destruction. That is the problem of having no clear vision. Like I said in the 5 things you need to master, the first thing is vision. He had no clear vision. That is also the danger of having happiness as the goal, because once happiness becomes the goal, there is no finish line. You only chase higher highs. Jordan Belfort did not fall because he got money. Remember, money is a tool. Jordan Belfort fell because pleasure became the mission. And when pleasure becomes the mission, the human starts to rot from the inside. You can see this same philosophy in something completely different, U.S. soccer. I have refereed all sorts of levels of soccer, but specifically I have reffed youth soccer from the bottom level to the highest levels in the entire country for the past decade. I have seen the system up close. So the World Cup's on in the USA for the first time in 32 years, so most people right now are watching soccer for the first time in their lives, and they don't really know what's going on, but it's great exposure for the sport, especially in America, where it is not the primary sport, whereas it is in basically every single other country in the entire world. And the United States had a pretty bad loss in the round of 16, and everybody's baffled and confused and disappointed. I'm not at all confused. I knew this was going to happen. Here's why I knew. And there's a lot of reasons why other countries are still way ahead of us when we're one of the wealthiest countries in the entire world. But the main reason that other countries are still ahead of us in soccer is because they still produce through struggle. They produce through the streets, the poor neighborhoods. They have a hunger that we cannot replicate. They play with no cameras, no recruiters, no $3,000 club fee, no perfect fields, private trainers, no parents yelling for their kid to have more playing time. Now, I'm not saying let's just kick everybody to the streets and then my kid's going to be some soccer superstar all of a sudden. That's not what I'm saying at all. But let's look at the all-time greats of the sport. Messi, Ronaldo, Pele. When you get a chance, look up each of their childhood homes. These are the best players of the most popular game in the entire world. And they come from dirt poor homes. They were not developed in some perfectly organized American pay-to-play machine. They learned the game because the game was life. It meant survival. The streets taught them creativity. The struggle gave them hunger. The lack of structure forced them to solve problems on their own. And that is how you shape greatness. But in America, we tried to buy the answer, like we do with everything. We turned youth soccer into a business. Club fees, travel teams, showcases, recruiting tournaments. I literally am a part of all this. I travel the entire country to referee. There's college coaches at every single one. Private trainers that are helping these guys. It is absurd. Parents pay thousands of dollars so their kid can be seen. But what did that actually create? It created a system where the goal is not to be the best soccer player. The goal is to get recruited. The goal is to go D1 and get the scholarship. So the game now becomes a showcase. Who can dribble through 3 kids? Who can score the most goals? Who can have the flashiest highlight tape? Who can look the best in front of the scout? But soccer is not about looking good. Soccer is about playing the game right. It is about movement, vision, sacrifice, decision-making. Soccer is about knowing when to pass, when to defend, when to disappear so your teammate can appear. It's about winning as a team. And that is the difference. The kid in Argentina on the streets is playing to survive. The American kid is playing to be selected. That is not the same hunger. And that is why just pouring money into something doesn't equal success. It doesn't guarantee greatness. Trust me, America has invested so much into youth soccer, and we've still yet to become what we should be on the world stage because we made the wrong calculation. We thought comfort plus money plus organization equals greatness. But greatness does not come from comfort. Greatness comes from necessity. When a kid has no way out except the ball at his feet, the ball becomes more than a sport, becomes more than a game. It becomes a purpose. He's not chasing happiness, he is chasing escape. He's chasing meaning, he's chasing a new life. And that is why struggle produces something money can't buy. A great example is my favorite movie of all time, The Pursuit of Happiness, starring Will Smith. And if you haven't seen this one either, pause the podcast immediately, you have more homework to do. This movie follows Chris Gardner, a man who's completely at the bottom. He's broke, homeless, trying to raise a son, all while sleeping in shelters, public bathrooms. He's carrying the weight of fatherhood, poverty, rejection, survival on his shoulders every single day. And here's the key difference. Chris Gardner is not happy for most all of the movie. He's scared, stressed, humiliated. He's beaten down by life over and over and over again. But he is fulfilled by something deeper than happiness. He has a purpose. His son gives him purpose. His future gives him purpose. He's not chasing a temporary emotion. He's chasing a better life. He's chasing freedom. And that's why struggle doesn't just automatically create greatness. Meaningful struggle does. That's the difference between suffering for nothing and suffering for a mission. Chris Gardner's pain had a direction because his struggle had a purpose attached to it. So instead of his struggle tearing him down and destroying him, it actually built him up. That is the difference between pleasure and purpose. Jordan Belfort had everything and became emptier. Chris Gardner had nothing and became stronger. One man chased happiness and drowned in stimulation. The other chased purpose and found fulfillment. That is the point. Happiness is not strong enough to carry you through suffering. Purpose is. Happiness disappears the second life gets hard. Purpose stays with you in the shelter. Purpose stays with you in the bathroom floor. Purpose stays with you when nobody believes in you. And that is why happiness cannot be the goal. Because the most important moments in your life will probably not feel happy while living in them. Building a business is not always happy. Raising a family, not always happy. Training your body, not always happy. Telling the truth, not always happy. But these things are meaningful. And meaning will always be more powerful than happiness. Building a life of chasing happiness will lead to more emptiness. Everybody always wants the view from the top of the mountain, but nobody ever wants to do the climb. But the climb is the only reason the view means anything. The man who enjoys the journey more than the destination will arrive at the destination sooner than the man who enjoys the destination more than the journey. When you reframe your mind to understand that, everything will change. Enjoy the journey, not the destination, the journey, because that is fulfilling. I promise you 99% of the world is destined to be average. That's just how it is. Environment, education, influences, mentality, healthcare. It's how you were set up. Unless you got lucky from birth, most all those factors will set you back from day one. And if you aren't born into serious money, it's very difficult to have upward mobility. It's not impossible, but it's extremely difficult. And most people don't even realize how much of a disadvantage they've been born into. And even worse is they don't know how to get out of it. Which is why most people just point their goals blindly to happiness, and then they don't end up achieving it. People are set up to fail. And that's why they lean on gambling, drugs, alcohol, prostitution, because that's how they fill their dopamine. Not true purpose. Oh bro, at least you were happy while doing it. That doesn't matter. Once the emotion disappears and you die, it doesn't matter if you were happy. What matters is what you leave behind on the planet. Your impact. How you were to other people, or your actual physical impact. And listen, if you're not already happy every single second, you might be viewing existence completely wrong. I see existence in such a positive way. Remember the second P, positivity. It was completely out of our control being brought into existence. Not a single human on this entire planet chose to be born. But we have the chance to experience life. And a life that has consciousness too. Listen, when you factor in that there's could have been so many realities that we were born into, like, I don't think you understand, but there's literally an infinite amount of realities we could have been born into instead of this. I'm gonna be pretty satisfied with the one we got. I mean, we have free will. We could have been born as a slug. We could have been born not able to control emotions, not be able to see. I'm telling you, this is not bad. Imagine we couldn't even control our thoughts. The fact that we got a consciousness with free will is unfathomable. We got pretty lucky. So when you realize, I'm just happy to be alive and experience it, and one day it's all going to be over, but I got to experience life. How lucky am I? When you realize that you can be happy every single second, even through the bad things, you don't need to chase happiness anymore because you already have it. But happiness isn't the only illusion in your life. There are many more, and we will discuss that in the next episode. Thanks again for tuning in and listening to the Moulder Mentality. This was a deeper episode, and it's going to keep getting better, and I'm trying to really rewire your brain. And again, glad you made it to the end of this video. I appreciate it, and I hope you have a great rest of your day. Keep following your vision, keep following your passion, and together we can mold the future.